Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all my Naturia Ishizu Yugioh deck profile for Posts, Magnificent Mavens. We got the incredibly broken Ishizu support in the latest Yu-Gi-Oh! Special Edition booster set. This just adds so much support for actually having a playstyle for the Naturias to fall on, setting up the graveyard for cards like Naturia Sacred Tree, giving you search power, recycle power, and then being able to shut down your opponent's own graveyard, which can stop a lot of different decks in the current format. I'm really happy with the results of this deck. It's definitely what I'll be using for locals as long as we have it at full power, and even when it gets hit, I may still try it after that because there's a guarantee that this deck will definitely be hit with just how much synergy and power it has. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Ishizu lineup, it's a pretty standard lineup of all the main deck monsters, running 3 Medora the Sword Oracle. You can discard 1 other Earth Fairy monster to special summon this card from your hand. Then you can place 1 Gravekeeper's Trap from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone. And quick effect, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard, and then target up to 3 cards in your graveyard, or up to 5 if Exchange of Spirit is on the field or in your graveyard. Shuffle them into the deck. You can only use each effect of Medora once per turn. So the face up card that you'll place is your Gravekeeper's Trap, because this will also give you more setup for your graveyard, while also being the card that'll shut down your opponent's graveyard if Exchange of Spirit is in your graveyard. And then just having more and more power with the mills, because like I said, if you send cards like Naturia Sacred Tree, it gives you all the search power since it's not a once per turn. I also run 3 Keldo, the Sacred Protector. With this card, you can discard 1 other Earth Fairy monster, special summon it from your hand, then add 1 Exchange of Spirit or 1 card that mentions it from your deck to your hand. And quick effect, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard, target up to 3 cards in the graveyards, or up to 5 if Exchange of Spirit is on the field or in the graveyard, shuffle them into the deck. Once again, more setup, but it's search power, being able to add that trap again, and having the discard power for your other setup cards, which I'm also running 3 Agito, the Ancient Sentinel. I have 1 of the original Agito as a placeholder. I just need to get 1 more of this card. With it, if this card is sent from the hand or deck to, if a card from your opponent's deck is sent to their graveyard during the except during damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can special summon 1 level 4 Earth Fairy monster from your graveyard, except for Agito, the Ancient Sentinel. And if this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can activate this effect. Each player sends the top 5 cards of their deck to the graveyard. And then with this card, if it's more than 5, if it's more or less with the deck. So if they have like 4 cards left in the deck, they just send what they have for the deck. And if Exchange of Spirit is in your graveyard, you can also send 5 more cards from the top of the other player's deck to the graveyard. You can only use each effect of Agito, the Ancient Sentinel, once per turn. So this card is meant to be used with cards like Keldo or Medora for the discard and then graveyard setup. So you can either hit your Exchange of Spirit into the graveyard or any of your other Naturia setup cards. The last one, definitely one of the more powerful of the engine, and the entire engine is broken to begin with, but that is Kelbuk, the Ancient Vanguard. If a card is sent from the hand or deck to your opponent's graveyard, except during the damage step, you can target 1 and special summon monster from your opponent controls, and then also with this card, and return that monster to the hand. And if this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can activate this effect. Each player sends the top 5 cards of their deck to the graveyard, or the entire deck if it's less than 5. Then if Exchange of Spirit is in your graveyard, you can set 1 trap from your graveyard. So this can let you set up Exchange of Spirit or 1 of the other traps that you may even just send to the graveyard to begin with. Kelbeck gives you a shuffle back option, but more graveyard setup, just like your Agito is meant to do. For the Naturia engine, I run 3 Naturia Camellia. With this card, when it's normal or special zone, you can send 1 Naturia card from your deck to the graveyard. And if you tribute a monster to activate a Naturia effect, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard instead. With this card, you have the send power. You can either send another Naturia monster or Sacred Tree to get an additional search. With the sending of the top 2 cards of your deck, you could set up your other Ishizu cards in the graveyard, giving you more of a mill and graveyard power up. And I also run 3 Naturia Mole Cricket. With this card, during the main phase quick effect, you can tribute this card to special summon 1 Naturia monster from your deck, or you can special summon 2 if your opponent controls a monster with the highest attack. And also, if you were to special summon a Naturia Synchro monster or a Naturia monster from the extra deck while it's in the graveyard, you can special summon it onto the field, or if your opponent special summons a monster from the extra deck, you can special summon it onto the field. You can only use each effect of Mole Cricket once per turn, but you have the special summon, and then just the tribute for 2 other Naturias, which the main ones you'll want to get out will either be Camellia or one of the one-ofs, which is Naturia Stink Bug, to stop the battle phase of your opponent, Naturia Vein to stop spell and traps, and Naturia Sunflower, which Sunflower can stop monster effects with the tribute plays. But if you have Camellia on the field, all you have to do is mill the top 2 cards of your deck once per turn for that, and then you have one more additional tribute with this card and another one on the field, since they are not once per turn. And also for the monster lineup, I also run 3 Vernisylph, the Misting Seedlings. All monsters on the field lose 600 attack except for Vernisylph monsters. You can discard this card in 1 monster or 1 Vernisylph card. You cannot activate non-Earth monster effects for the rest of this turn. Also add 1 Earth Fairy monster from your deck to your hand except for Vernisylph, the Misting Seedlings. Then you can special summon 1 Earth monster from your graveyard. So you have the special summon setup with all the different Earth monsters you'll set up in your graveyard thanks to this card. And also searching out 1 Earth Fairy monster, which are all of the Ishizu cards, depending on which one you may need in your hand. It's a definite 3-up for that search power. And for more monster effect negation, I run 3 Herald of the Orange Light, so you have this to work with your fairy monsters again. For the discard, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, being able to send this card and one other fairy from your hand to the graveyard to negate the activation and destroy it. And lastly, for the main deck monsters, just 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, just an additional hand trap to use if your opponent does go first. You have this and Herald of the Orange Light to stop any card effects that your opponent may have, whether it be for graveyard or search power, or even just monster effects to begin with. And then for the spells, we do run a small spell lineup, the monster lineup being the biggest part of the deck. 3 Naturia Blessing. This card is not once per turn, just giving you a special summon of a Naturia monster from your hand or graveyard with all the graveyard setup, and being able to search this card out with Naturia Sacred Tree. It definitely helps to set up your Naturia Beast, which will be the main card you want to go into for the Synchro Summon, just to stop your opponent's spells on the field. And then also being able to have the option to special summon another one, can even set up cards like your Sunflower or your Mosquito Cricket, or I forgot the name, Mole Cricket. That's it, on your field again for you to reuse. And for the rest of the spells, just 1 Call by the Grave and 1 Upstart Goblin. The Upstart Goblin for draw power, so you can draw into something after going through all the mill, and also Call by the Grave. Even giving your opponent 1,000 life points isn't that big a deal, but you want to go through the deck as quickly as you can and get to those important Ishizu or Naturia cards. And then for the traps, just like the spells, the traps are a small lineup. 3 Naturia Sacred Tree. This is a great searcher for your Naturia cards, for the fact that you can also just recycle back the other cards using your Ishizu card, shuffling cards back into the deck using your Keldo and Medora, and then sending them all off again with cards like Agido and your Kelbeck, or even your Naturia Camellia. Recycling all these cards and continuing the searches, which is insane because Sacred Tree is not once per turn either. And then the rest of the traps, just 1 Gravekeeper's Trap. This has search power, but also shutting down your opponent's graveyard if Exchange of Spirit is in your graveyard, which we only just need the 1 copy of the each to set up in the graveyard. And this is just easily searchable, whether you set it up on the field with Medora or search it out with one of your other Ishizu cards. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. For the Synchro monsters, I run 1 Naturia Beast and 1 Barkion. Easiest special summons to get out in the deck, stopping your opponent's spells and traps. And also, when you summon them, just being able to summon back your Mole Cricket as an additional plus onto the field is always great. And for the other bigger boss monster synchros, 1 Trishula and 1 Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign for the protection and power up for all the cards you'll banish, and being able to banish your opponent's own cards using Trishula, and having easy means to do so with all the different monsters we run in the deck, including our tuner monsters, which we'll use most of the time, being our Naturia Vein and our Naturia Stink Bug. For the Xyz monsters, I run 1 number 60 for the discard power, setting up the grave once more, and just drawing into that engine. We may skip our draw phase with this card, but it's well worth it if we draw what we need for the play at hand. And also 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Utopia the Lightning, and also 1 Baguska for some of the standard rank 4s that we go into, along with the 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus for more of the power play to overlay into any of our other Xyz monsters. For the Link monsters, I run the 1 Link Karibo, so we can use our Mole Cricket, setting it up in the graveyard again, and just having an easy Link 1 if our opponent tries to stop Mole Cricket while it's on the field. Sprite Elf is really good because we have the Sunflower and our Herald of the Orange Light special summon play on the field when it activates the effect. Setting this card from our hand, but still being able to set up a tuner monster on the field is what's important about Sprite Elf, either with it being Orange Light or even just getting out the level 2 Naturia Sunflower. And I also run one Asa the Earth Charmer to go with all the Earth attribute monsters we run, one Curious, the Lightsworn Dominion, for more send power from the deck, setting up more cards depending on what we send, and one Access Code Talker being our big boss monster that we go into in the deck, as more as a finishing play when we can easily use our monsters on the field to go into and then just swing into our opponent for game. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, the mill is very important for the setup, but the Ishizu cards do play a lot into it as well, depending on the discard you go for. Medora being my favorite for that. Being able to discard one other Earth Fairy monster to then special summon this card from our hand, then placing one Gravekeeper's Trap, which can be this setup here. And then all you need to do is hope to either get the Exchange of Spirit in your graveyard, but then you also have your Yugioh, the Ancient Sentinel. With your mill with Yugioh, it all comes down to what you could potentially get. If you get a Kalbeck, it's just an added bonus. If you get your Naturia Sacred Tree, you have the search to then go for Blessing. If you open up multiple Sacred Trees, that's 2 additional searches, so you can get your Naturia spell and the Naturia monster you may need. Because if you go for Blessing, special summoning out your Camellia onto the field, Camellia can activate, setting up another Naturia monster in your graveyard. And then you also have the Medora Reshuffle to shuffle all these cards back into the deck and redo the play all over again. If you have the Camellia, which is also a tuner on the field, and let's say you have the Mole Cricket set up in the graveyard for another additional search that you could use if you have the other Naturia Blessing in your hand, special summoning back the Mole Cricket onto the field can either give you the tribute for a special summon of another Naturia, which if you then go for Sunflower, having the Camellia and the Sunflower on the field means that you have the mill 2 cost for your Camellia, and then the additional tribute giving you 2 monster effect negations with this card alone. And you have the additional search with other cards that we run in the deck, including your Vernisylph Misting Seedlings, being able to discard this and one other monster with that card, being able to then not only set up more of your graveyard, having the additional special summon off of Misting Seedlings, but giving you a search for more of the Earth Fairy setup, which you want to have either Medora or your Kalbeck in your hand to use. And being able to search those out with another card part of the engine adds to that power. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. Like I said, it's a really powerful deck, and I am very excited to use it at locals at full power while we have it to enjoy. And it's very easy to get. None of the cards are really short print from what I've noticed from the Magnificent Maven set. So if you have the cards to build it, give it a try. It may be something you enjoy playing to be able to keep up with all the other decks we currently have in the format. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira, Twig out.